My name is Robert Miller, 57 years old. For 32 years, I swung hammers, climbed scaffolds, and poured concrete until my knees gave out. I retired early after a back injury, but I told myself it was worth it. I could be home, cook dinner, and keep watch over my wife Linda, whose heart condition had been our shadow for more than a decade. We managed. Pills every morning, appointments every month, bills stacked like bricks on my desk. I never once missed a payment. When her chest tightened at night, I drove her to the ER, sat awake beside her hospital bed, held her hand until the monitors calmed down. That was my life. That was our marriage. Then came the Thursday afternoon in April when everything cracked. Linda collapsed in the kitchen. I called 911, followed the ambulance to St. Mary's Medical Center, and rushed through the sliding doors. At the intake desk, a nurse looked up. "Are you her husband?" "Yes," I said, breathless. She tapped a screen, her brow furrowed. "I'm sorry, sir, but according to these notes, the medical power of attorney is held by your daughter, Emily Carter, and her husband, Mark." I froze. "That's impossible. Linda and I never changed that paperwork." The nurse shrugged helplessly. "You'll have to wait. Only Emily and Mark can authorize treatment decisions or visit inside the ICU." Minutes later, they arrived. Emily in business clothes, Mark with his usual smirk. Emily hugged me stiffly. "Dad, don't worry. We've got this handled." "Handled?" My voice rose. "She's my wife." Mark stepped in front of her. "Look, Robert, it's best if you let us manage. The doctors need someone level-headed." Level-headed. As if 30 years of night shifts, surgeries, and bills had left me unfit to think. "I want to see Linda," I said. Emily shook her head. "The staff said it's better if visits are limited. Stress isn't good for her heart." The guard at the ICU door folded his arms. Emily handed him a clipboard. My name wasn't on the visitor list. He didn't move when I stepped forward. Behind the glass, I caught a glimpse of Linda, pale against the hospital sheets, wires running from her chest. My chest constricted. I reached out, but the guard blocked the way. "Sir, please step back." I looked at my daughter. "Emily, I've been there every night. I paid every bill. And now I can't sit with my wife?" Her lips tightened. "Dad, you've done enough. Let us handle it from here." The words echoed like a verdict. "You've done enough." Guests in the waiting area turned their heads. I felt their stares, their whispers. The husband barred from his own wife's bedside. I stepped back slowly, fists shaking. For 35 years, Linda and I had fought side by side. Now, in the moment she needed me most, my own daughter locked me out. That was the moment I knew. I wasn't family anymore, and this was only the beginning. I drove home that night with my knuckles white on the steering wheel. The image of Linda lying alone in that bed burned behind my eyes. The words, "You've done enough," rang like a hammer on steel. By the time I pulled into my driveway, rage had overtaken shock. I dialed Emily. She answered on the second ring. "Dad, it's late." "Late?" My voice shook. "You cut me off from your mother. You barred me from seeing my own wife." A sigh. "We didn't cut you off. We're just protecting her. The doctors said too many visitors." I cut her off. "Don't you dare use the doctors. For 12 years I've driven her to every appointment. I've sat through nights of monitors beeping. Now suddenly, I'm too much?" "Dad, you're emotional." "Of course I'm emotional. My wife's heart is failing, and my daughter thinks she's the gatekeeper of her care." Mark's voice broke in, calm but dripping with disdain. "Robert, this is why we stepped in. You get worked up. The staff needs someone rational." I nearly dropped the phone from gripping it so tight. Rational? Who wrote the checks? Who kept the insurance current? You think you can erase 30 years because I raise my voice? Emily snapped, sharper than I'd ever heard her. Stop making this about you. Mom needs peace and you bring stress. We're her decision makers now. Accept it. The line went quiet. I could hear them breathing, united against me. Finally, I spoke low. You think paperwork makes you her family? You think locking me out makes you strong? You're wrong. You've betrayed both of us. There was a pause. Then Emily's voice, icy. Dad, if you keep fighting us, we'll have security escort you off hospital property permanently. I was stunned. Your mother is fighting for her life and you're fighting me? No answer. Just the dull click of the call ending. I stared at the phone in disbelief. Before I could call back, a banner appeared. You can't send messages to this contact. Emily had blocked me. Seconds later, the family group chat dissolved before my eyes. I sent one last message to Mark. You don't own her. She's my wife. The screen flashed red. Message not delivered. I set the phone on the table. The kitchen was silent, but my ears rang. For decades, I thought betrayal came from strangers, not from your own blood. Yet here it was, served cold, with the language of protection and peace. I realized then this wasn't confusion. This was deliberate. They had decided to erase me. And the worst part was, Linda didn't even know. The next morning, I drove back to St. Mary's before sunrise. I thought maybe the night had cooled their temper. Maybe a nurse would recognize me and let me slip in. But when I reached the ICU doors, the same guard stepped forward. Sir, you're not cleared for entry, he said, arms crossed. I'm her husband, I insisted. He shook his head. Only authorized contacts may visit. Your daughter and son-in-law left explicit instructions. I felt the eyes of others in the waiting area. Some families offered polite smiles. Others whispered. A woman leaned to her husband. That's the man they won't let see his wife. The words cut deeper than steel. I sat down in the stiff chair by the vending machine, staring through the glass. I could see monitors flicker in Linda's room, but not her face. 2 hours passed before Emily and Mark arrived, carrying coffee cups, looking like they owned the place. Emily glanced at me. Dad, go home. This is too hard for you. I rose slowly. Too hard? I've been by her side every day for 12 years. Don't tell me what's too hard. Mark smirked. You need to let go, Robert. Times change. They walked past me as if I were a stranger. The guard buzzed them in. I remained outside. That afternoon, I drove to the grocery store. At the checkout, an old neighbor whispered, Heard you're not allowed in the hospital. Is that true? My throat locked. I paid and left. Gossip had already spread beyond those sterile hallways. At home, I opened Facebook. My daughter had posted a smiling photo of herself and Mark at Linda's bedside. The caption read, Mom is stable. We're handling everything. Comments flooded in. What wonderful kids you are. She's lucky to have you taking care of her. Not a single word about me. It was as if I had vanished. I tried to comment. My text bounced back. You can't reply to this post. She had blocked me. That night, I sat at my kitchen table staring at 12 years of paperwork, pharmacy receipts, insurance renewals, ER discharge slips with my signature scrawled at the bottom. Each page proved what the world suddenly denied, that I was Linda's caregiver, not Emily or Mark. Around 10, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. Mr. Miller? A woman's voice said. This is Nurse Karen from St. Mary S. I've known you for years, haven't I? Yes, I said cautiously. I just wanted to tell you, I know you're the one who's always been here. Everyone on staff knows it. I can't change the paperwork, but if you ever need someone to say what's true, I will. My throat tightened. Thank you, I whispered. After we hung up, I sat in the dim light, staring at the folder of receipts. I realized Emily and Mark weren't just shutting me out. They were rewriting the story, painting themselves as the saviors, and the longer I stayed silent, the easier it would be for everyone else to believe it. Isolation is more than empty rooms. It's watching your life erased in real time, replaced by a version where you never mattered. And I knew then, I couldn't stay quiet forever. By the end of that week, the silence had become unbearable. Linda lay behind hospital doors I couldn't pass, while my daughter played the hero online. Every scroll on Facebook showed another picture of Emily or Mark at her bedside, smiling like saints. The captions read, "Mom is resting comfortably. We've got everything under control." Hundreds of likes, dozens of comments praising them. Not one word about the man who'd kept her alive through every midnight scare. Friday night, I pulled my old printer from the closet. On the table, I laid out 12 years of receipts, prescriptions filled, co-pays paid, ambulance bills cleared, discharge papers, each signed with my name. I scanned them one by one, creating a file thicker than a phone book. Then I opened Facebook and typed, "They say I'm not fit to sit by my wife's side, but for 12 years, here is who signed every form, paid every bill, and drove every midnight run to the ER. If the world thinks I don't exist, these papers say otherwise." I attached photos of the receipts, the pharmacy slips with my signature, even a picture of Linda and me taken last summer at the lake, her smile tired but real. Then I clicked post. Within minutes, notifications exploded. Friends commented, "We know the truth, Robert." Neighbors chimed in, "We saw you take her to every appointment." Some relatives stayed cautious. There must be more to the story. By midnight, the post had crossed 200 shares. The next morning at the diner, heads turned when I walked in. Ralph waved me over, slid a mug of coffee my way. "You shook the tree," he said. On the bulletin board near the door, someone had pinned a printout of my post. Strangers crowded around, reading aloud. That afternoon, Janet, the wedding coordinator who'd once seen me humiliated outside the church at Daniel's wedding, sent a message. "Robert, I know what it's like to be erased. If you need someone to back your side, I will." But the message that stopped me came from Nurse Karen at St. Mary S. "Mr. Miller, everyone here knows you've been Linda's caregiver for years. If you need an official statement, I'll provide one." By evening, the tide had turned. Emily's latest post, another bedside selfie captioned, "Taking care of Mom," was filled with comments demanding answers. "Why is your dad posting all those receipts? Why isn't he allowed in? What's really going on?" Emily tried deleting, but the questions multiplied. For the first time, their narrative slipped from their grip. I sat back from my desk, hands trembling, not with fear, but with the strange power of truth finally spoken aloud. For weeks, they had painted me invisible. But now the world was watching, and silence was no longer theirs to control. The storm on Facebook had barely calmed when another envelope arrived in my mailbox. At first, I thought it was another hospital bill, but when I tore it open, my hands went cold. Insurance claim adjustment notice. It listed my name as the claimant, tied to Linda's recent hospitalization, only I hadn't filed it. The amount requested was staggering, tens of thousands marked as in-home caregiving services. Services I had never billed. I drove straight to the insurance office, The clerk scrolled her screen, then looked at me oddly. "Mr. Miller, according to this, you've been paid twice already this year for caregiving claims. Direct deposit to an account ending in 7,421. "That's not my account," I said, my voice rising. She leaned closer. "Then you need to talk to the fraud division. Whoever filed these claims used your social security number and listed you as guarantor." I walked out numb. Only one conclusion made sense. Emily and Mark hadn't just cut me out. They'd signed my name to drain money. That evening I called Emily. She didn't answer. Mark picked up instead. "Robert," he said smoothly, "what's this panic about insurance?" "You know damn well," I snapped. "My name is on fraudulent claims. You put me at risk of prison time, not just debt." He chuckled. "Relax, it's just paperwork. The money helps cover Mom's care. Everyone benefits." "Everyone?" My voice thundered. "Linda doesn't even know. You're lining your pockets while she lies in a hospital bed." Silence on the line. Then Emily's voice slipped in, cold and tired. "Dad, you don't understand. We needed control. We needed resources. You would have held us back." "Held you back?" I almost dropped the phone. "I've carried this family on my shoulders. Now you forge my name to cash checks?" Mark's voice hardened. "Be careful, Robert. If you stir this up, you'll only embarrass yourself more." That was the moment clarity settled like steel. They weren't ashamed. They were confident. They thought age and exhaustion would keep me quiet. But I had 30 years of proof. Receipts, signatures. Now even the insurer's notice, and witnesses ready to speak. I called Rebecca Stone, the attorney Ralph had recommended months ago. I read her the notice. Her reply was steady. "Robert, this is criminal. If they used your identity, we can bring it before the hospital board and the insurance auditors. But you'll need to confront them with witnesses present." My hand tightened around the phone. "Then set it up. They shut me out of Linda's room. I'll make sure the next door that shuts is theirs." Rebecca scheduled the meeting for a Tuesday morning. Neutral ground, the administrative wing of St. Mary S., in a conference room with glass walls and a polished oak table. She insisted on witnesses. Ralph came, arms folded, still in his work boots. Nurse Karen walked in, crisp uniform and steady eyes. Even Dr. Patel, who had treated Linda for years, agreed to sit quietly and confirm facts. Emily and Mark arrived 10 minutes late. She looked pale, defensive. He carried the same smirk he always wore when he thought he held the upper hand. Rebecca opened the folder and spoke clearly. "We're here to address misuse of Mr. Miller's identity and the obstruction of his rights as husband and caregiver." I slid my stack of documents onto the table. Receipts for medications, ER visits, 12 years of signatures. On top, the insurance notice showing fraudulent claims under my name. Emily's face drained of color. Mark tried to grab the paper, but Rebecca pinned it with one manicured finger. "These were filed electronically, tied to your email, Mr. Carter. Shall I read the routing number where the funds were deposited?" Mark's smirk faltered. "It's not what it looks like." Ralph slammed his palm on the table. "I saw this man sit outside the ICU like a stray dog while you played heroes. And now you steal in his name? Cowards." Nurse Karen spoke evenly. "Every nurse on this floor knows Robert is Linda's primary caregiver. We have records of him signing her in at least a dozen times. His presence is a matter of record." Emily stammered. "We just wanted Mom to have the best care." I leaned forward, my voice steady. "The best care doesn't come from locking out her husband. It doesn't come from fraud. It comes from truth." I pulled out one last page. Linda's emergency contact forms, signed year after year, always naming me. I placed it at the center of the table. Dr. Patel nodded. That's correct. We've always considered Robert the primary contact. Rebecca closed the folder. The evidence is clear. Either you sign this agreement today, releasing Robert from any liability, returning control of medical decisions to him, or we pursue criminal charges for fraud. Silence filled the room. Emily's eyes brimmed with tears. Mark's jaw clenched, his bravado gone. I looked straight at them. I sat beside your mother every night. You forged my name to steal, then barred me like a stranger. I gave you everything, and you threw me away. But I won't let you write my ending. Rebecca slid the papers across. With shaking hands, Emily signed. Mark followed, the pen digging so hard it tore the page. When it was done, I stood. No shouting, no triumph. Just truth laid bare in front of witnesses who would remember. For the first time in weeks, the weight shifted. The door that had shut me out of my wife's room had swung back open, and theirs had closed. 2 nights after the meeting, my phone rang. The caller ID showed a number I didn't recognize, but I knew who it was before I answered. Dad? Emily's voice was raw, cracked. I stayed silent. I'm sorry, she rushed out. I didn't mean for it to go that far. Mark said it was just paperwork. I thought we were helping Mom. I let the words hang. My chest felt heavy, but my voice came out steady. Helping her by locking me out? Helping her by stealing in my name? You call that care? She sniffed, trying to hold back tears. I was scared. When the doctors started talking about surgery, I panicked. Mark said he knew how to handle the insurance. I trusted him. Trusted him more than your own father. Silence answered me. I thought of Linda, lying in that bed, and of the nights I'd sat awake just to hear her breathing. I thought of the years Emily grew up under our roof, watching me hold everything together, and now she had chosen to believe I was the problem. I'll always love you, I said finally. But love and trust are different. Love I can't take back. Trust, you'll have to earn that again, and it won't be easy. Dad, please, she whispered. No, Emily. I forgive enough to put down the anger, but forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, and it doesn't mean I let you near my finances or your mother's care again. From now on, your place is as her daughter, not her guardian, not her decision-maker. Her breathing hitched. I imagined her nodding on the other end, though no words came. I'll let you visit, I added, but on my terms. One wrong move, one more lie, and the door closes for good. For a moment, all I heard was her sobbing softly. Then the line clicked dead. I set the phone on the table and exhaled. The decision was final. I had chosen to forgive just enough to keep my heart from hardening, but not enough to give them power again. It wasn't revenge, it was survival. A week later, I sat once more in the ICU, but this time no guard stood in my way. The papers Rebecca forced across that table had restored my rights. I walked past the glass and into Linda's room, where she lay recovering after surgery, her chest rising steadily. I pulled a chair to her bedside and took her hand. Her eyelids fluttered open, and she smiled faintly. You're here. Always, I whispered. For the first time in weeks, the word felt true. I stayed with her through the night, feeding her ice chips, pressing the call button when she needed help. The nurses nodded as they passed, no longer treating me like an intruder, but like what I had always been, her husband, her caregiver, her anchor. The next morning, Ralph stopped by with coffee. He gave me a nod through the glass, a silent sign that the neighborhood had seen the truth too. The gossip had shifted. No one called me the man who wasn't allowed in anymore. Now I was the man who fought his way back. Later, I walked outside with Eddie. We sat on the hospital bench watching the sun rise. He clapped my shoulder. "Feels like you finally got your breath back." "I did," I said, "because I stopped waiting for their permission." I thought of Emily. I knew she would visit soon, maybe with excuses, maybe with more tears. I had already decided how to handle it. She could come as a daughter, but never again as the one holding the pen over Linda's life. That door was locked. Looking back at the building, I realized something. They had tried to erase me, but I wrote myself back. Through proof, through witnesses, through sheer refusal to disappear. I'm still a husband. I'm still a father. But I'm no longer the man begging outside a locked door. I'm the man who walked through it and stood tall. Sometimes the only way forward is to choose yourself. And that's exactly what I did. What would you do? Drop your story and subscribe. Revenge Stories Men U55 America.